Hey, everybody. Welcome to the nation. I'm JT, along with my co host, Leanne Whippen, Hall of Famer. There'll be new news next week about Hall of Fame inductees this year,
Yes,
too.
exciting.
So that's exciting. Coming to you from the Turn It, Don't Burn It studios in Portland and Tampa. Today, we've got a friend of the show, and we've been on here a number of times, and it's always great information. Stan Hayes from Operation Barbecue Relief. Stan and his crew are coming up in my neck of the woods in June, but they've got other stuff going on. So we're going to cover everything for the next hour. Stan, welcome.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you having me back on.
Of
No problem.
course.
So let's take it from the top. You're coming back up here in June. I think it's the 14th, that
Yep.
area,
Uh-huh.
working with A Casino. They have
Yep.
a big barbecue fest. A does, and Stan's been part of it now for several years with OBR. And it's kind of interesting what you do. And I'm just going to let you tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, we were one of the, inaugural groups, if you will, that was part of the barbecue fest. And what we ended up, we've done vending, we've done classes there, we've done demos, and this year, instead of doing the same class that we've been doing, like a barbecue academy one
Right.
day class on a couple of different meats. One of the things that we've been hearing is, man, I'd like to learn more about vending, or, hey, how you guys do this. And we thought, why don't we put together a class, the business of barbecue vending, what it takes to, really put on, um, and go to an event. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk to them about, how we price things, how we figure out how much, we're going to take based on what they believe the attendance is going to be for an event, and really get into, how we plan for it before we ever get there. What we're looking to buy, why we're choosing what we're choosing for the event. And we're going to do, this year we're going to do two different meats, for this. And we were asked to do ribs as one of them, pork ribs,
Hmm.
and put on the show, because when you do pork ribs, you just can't pull them out, slice them, and hand them to them. You got to have the grill out front and caramelize them and do some of that show with it to really bring people over. But if we can get beef ribs, I don't know that somebody's going to spend the amount of money you want for a beef rib, but man, they make great sliders too.
Yeah.
So we're looking at doing a beef slider. We're not sure what it's going to be, whether it'll be that, whether it'll be brisket, whether it'll be chuck roast, or beef clod. I mean, it could be, and we're looking at that. Obviously, we're trying to use our relationships and get everything donated, so all the proceeds benefit the organization.
Right.
Alene has been great to work with over the years, and they really, they're really working with us to make this happen. I'm doing this with a team of volunteers. I'm not going to bring in any of my team this year. I'm bringing in some of the people that we've been training in our lead positions that want to
Hmm.
do more on disaster. So these are people that have already stepped up to do more. And so it's a little bit of a thank you, but a little bit of, hey, thank you with work involved, right?
Sure.
Uh-huh.
And for us, you know, we'll go through that business of barbecue piece, but then we're going to get them hands on. We'll tell them why, and show them why we do what we do around. Like I said, to me, at a festival like that, if you're not out front with a big party grill and basting the ribs, so they can smell it, see it, and then passing those ribs over to get cut for those people, you're missing out on an opportunity, because that draws people in at those
Sure.
events. And then the little things that we've learned over the years about this, we want to be able to give to them. So yeah, it's a good way to get volunteers and get people engaged, but it's also a way that people may have interest in vending and getting more involved in barbecue, of how to do that, can learn.
I think there's two important things you need to include in this. They need to
Okay.
bring two books, their checkbook and their prayer book, because if you get the numbers wrong, you know what that means. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're going off of experience, because we've done this now, the vending side of it, like I think 3 out of 5 years. This
Mm-hmm.
will be the third one, and we know what our numbers have been in the past, and we know what other vendors did. Like, and we also, last year they got caught off guard. Last year was one of the years that I didn't vend, and they got caught off guard because A gave all their high rollers like a $50 seed, because they do it all off of a little wristband, where you
Right.
tap and pay. Well, they gave all of those high rollers, I'll call them, a $50, like credit.
Right. Right.
And then, they hook their credit card up to it. I mean, they flew through money because the way you can just go around tapping stuff and tapping for beer, tapping for food, tapping for this. But what they weren't anticipating is they didn't know about that 50 bump. And that was about 200 and something people that got that. And vendors were flying. I mean, food was flying off. I was sitting there behind the scenes with our class last year, grilling extra tri tips for one of the groups because they were so far behind that they needed proteins,
Yeah.
and they were bringing them over and we're grilling them and having the students help with it, to keep up with the demand.
Right.
So, and I mean, it it's always a logistical nightmare. I'm actually, right now I'm using their equipment, and they don't have a lot of big equipment, so I'm going to be pre-cooking some stuff. And the nice thing about combi ovens is, man, you can't tell the difference when you
Right.
reheat something in the combi versus other ways. But I'm still the kind of guy that would like to be pulling off ribs fresh, throwing them on that grill and
Sure.
and doing that. So I'm working to try to find an old hickory up in that area that we can get up in there, to be in our spot.
We're, we're excuse me, there's a saying around here, it's been here for years, keep Portland weird. And there's merit to that on a lot of different issues and levels. But we're not huge barbecue country like Kansas City, if
Oh,
you
I
will.
know.
Like, yeah. And so sometimes it's hard. I mean, there's some vendors that sell those types of cookers, but they're not always readily available up here. I mean, if
Yeah,
you wanted a Weber kettle or even a Traeger, you're in the home turf right here. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Oh yeah.
it's tough on that. The and they've moved it up this year, haven't they? Date wise from
So
previously.
it's really moving it back to where it was in the earlier years.
Oh, okay.
Last year they were way, they moved back over a month, about 6 weeks, further back. And it's just things that are going on. They've had gone through a lot of management change at A, from the casino side, and looking at it, and you'll notice this year's barbecue fest does not have the slew of celebrity chefs that it has in the past. It's got some influencers, and it has some people that have big networks and stuff, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it's not you're not going to see Michael Simon, or, well, at least I've been told you're not going to see Michael Simon or Jet Tila or these others that they've been bringing in over the last few years, as this has gotten larger and larger. I mean, they're expecting over 5,000 people between Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah.
and they're 4 hour slots. So you buy your ticket for a 4 hour slot to come there, and it'll be Sunday, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, or Sunday afternoon. So
Well,
it's three.
it's a big event. I mean, it's turned into a big event
Yeah,
like that. Um,
they're still doing the barbecue contest,
yeah.
and they've expanded that, to for a bigger space to bring in more teams, and they want to grow that more as well.
Yeah. Well, they've got the money to do it.
Oh,
I mean,
for
Why
sure.
did they cut the celebrity chefs?
They didn't see the need for at least the full number of them, and didn't see the reciprocal increase in attendance,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
for having those big names. And so they're like, hey, why are we spending money to bring these people, big money to bring these people in when we're not seeing like a huge spike in the numbers because we have these people? And so they've been playing with them with different festivals and not having as many of the big names, and the numbers haven't gone down. People are
Mhm.
coming out for the food, for the experience, and not necessarily, because somebody like Michael Simon or Aaron Mayer is getting up on stage and doing a demo.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, it's uh it's great to have them. They're a wealth of information and personality and all that. But again, that kind of keep Portland weird crowd, even though it's across the river in Vancouver, if you will. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just those things have never been huge, huge draws. And I understand why they did it, but I understand why they brought them in originally. But I think they're right, and I think you're right there, Stan, that if it made a difference of a 15% bump in your audience, the cost would might be worth it, you know. But if you're
Yep.
not seeing 10% to 20% increase in your warm bodies out there on doing it, that can be a big expense.
Yeah. And those guys aren't cheap. I mean, and
No.
gals.
Yeah.
And for me it was great because I've met many of them. We've had a chance of building relationships with many of them. So I get to see them at these events. But for me, that's not why I'm there. I'm there because I get a chance to work with, first responders and veterans, and the business of barbecue class. We're still focused on, trying to get the veterans and first responders around the area that are interested to come out, but we're opening it up a little bit, because we're also trying to build our base of volunteers. The Pacific Northwest has been lucky in many ways. You guys have had your fires and they've
Right.
been some bad ones, but it could be much worse.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, there's not a lot of human exposure to that. You know, the after effects of smoke and whatever, but we don't
yep.
have like they have in LA big residential areas being wiped out. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Stan Hayes, Leanne, and myself right here on The Nation right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Nation. I'm JT, along with Ms. Whippen. She's busy. She's just try to get her on the phone someday. I'll tell you that. It's tough out there. Um, if you want to follow the show, we're on all the social media platforms and all the podcast platforms. And excuse me, Leanne has her Instagram, which she's got about 9 million people that follow her
Very
on
cool.
that. I've got mine, which I have three. And of course, Facebook and Twitter and all that. So we're pretty easy to find. Like I said, we've got Stan Hayes with us. Stan's been on the show a number of times from Operation Barbecue Relief. I want to move on to something else. We'll come back
Sure.
to the A deal, but you know, the Carolinas, the storms they had there, all through that swath of the South. And I followed it. You know, I watched your posts and stuff, how you were responding to things. Uh, this isn't so much about the instantaneous response, but are you still in some of those areas on occasion helping, or what's going on back there?
Yeah. So especially in Western North Carolina, you know, we were there for over a month. We left, but we've been back subsequently probably 5 or 6 different times
Uh
to
huh.
do different things in different communities. Most recently over Easter, we did meals for 4 different communities, sort of centralized it in one of those communities, and then sent it out to 3 additional communities to do a few thousand meals. To get out to those people because it's amazing that it's a double-edged sword, really. For many of them live there because they want to be left alone, right?
Right.
They don't want government interaction. They don't want sometimes people interaction. But when something like this happens, we have to do better. I mean, you still have people that are living in tents. They live through the winter in tents. I mean, how can that be?
Mhm.
With everything that we have today. And so we did it. When you saw the response to the LA fires was greater than what happened in Western North Carolina, it just that's politics at work at
Right.
and uh, and I'm not a political person. I don't like to play games like that, but I think it was just glaringly obvious what was happening. And we were in LA. I mean, don't get me wrong. We went out there because there was a huge need, and we were asked to come out, but it doesn't compare in my eyes of when you look at what happened out there, and we'll continue through this year. Probably every other month, almost every third month, we've got something planned to go back in there and do thousands of meals, with different groups and teaming up with groups to continue to help up, because it's going to be probably 2 years before many of these people get back into their home if they have
If
to be
ever.
rebuilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Leanne, um, you're way south from where I am, and from Stan there.
Hmm.
Are they on the local news? Are they covering the people in Carolinas? Or
Occasionally, but occasionally they're covering LA, occasionally they're covering us. And I mean, my daughter's house just got imploded 2 days ago,
yeah.
and the storm was quite a while ago. So, I mean, it's going to be a year before she even gets another house. So,
Sure.
um, it's it's touch and go with the news. It's, as you said, it's kind of political, but I have family in North Carolina, and I know how devastating it was, and I feel that they got slighted for
Well,
what they went through.
even me sitting 3,000 miles away, I thought they've kind of turned their back on them, or just, they came in for the. I promise not to get too political here, folks, but the powers that be at the time came in for the photo ops, and yeah, we'll do the, but it took a while to even get them there. And they did that, and then they left, and then it just kind of sat.
I think the
That's the
most important thing about the Carolinas is those people didn't have insurance because they didn't expect this to happen to them. Whereas in Florida, they have insurance, or they should.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So when they lose something in the Carolinas, it's not coming back to them. They lost it. And
Yeah.
that, I feel like
Uh,
that's focus has been lost.
you have a lot of generational homes that were paid off, handed down
Uh-huh.
from family to family, and in some of those hollers and some of those areas around there, that they didn't see a need to have insurance, because most people think of insurance for that, you know
Yeah,
tragedy. and
Right.
sometimes it becomes that cost benefit. Is there a benefit to having it or not? Unfortunately, right?
Right.
And when things are paid off, you don't have a mortgage company that tells you have to have it, and
right.
so, but again, it is, there's a lot going on now, and there's a lot more people involved, and other groups that we've worked with, that we've gone back and worked with, are helping in those efforts to get people, a little bit more situated. Um, we worked with a group that I think in one weekend, brought in a they brought in a group of Amish from
I
Pennsylvania, Ohio area,
I saw that. Yeah,
and they built 20 tiny homes in a weekend.
It's
yeah,
amazing.
And I'm like, look, this is what humanity is about right here. It wasn't the government, it wasn't the state, it
Hmm.
was nonprofit organizations, church groups, civic groups coming together to say, you know what, we're going to have to take this in our own hands.
right, right. No, I saw those news clips on that, Stan, and those Amish folks, they can build stuff. We all know that they can build stuff, and they can do it. They raise a barn in an afternoon, a huge barn, and they
Oh yeah.
got the roof and siding on by the end of the day. Maybe the interior isn't finished, but you it's up. It's tangible at that point. And I saw those clips about the Amish coming into North Carolina and building those little homes and stuff, and they were just knocking it out, you know. I thought that was impressive. We're gonna have to take a break here in a minute, but what I want to talk to you about is I think you came on the show the first time, what, 6 years ago or something.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
it's been a while.
Yeah. And you were really starting to hit your stride with OBR then, you know. And if you don't know what that stands for, it's Operation Barbecue Relief. All right. Uh, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about the expansion. And now you have, what do I want to say, satellite divisions. I'm going to let you explain it better than that,
Yeah,
around the country where you can, you know, your response can be as soon as they open the gate, we can be there type thing.
yep,
All right.
sure,
So
absolutely.
we're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Stan Hayes, Leanne, and myself on the Nation in just a second. Got to listen to the commercials though, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT. One of the things we mention every week on this show has to do with this blonde lady with a steak growing out of the back of her head right now. If you can see her back picture,
Yeah, I was in a steak kind of mood.
yeah, it's a beautiful looking steak.
Mhm.
Pig powder, love pig powder. She's going to give us an update on that because it's a great product. You can go to pigpowder.com and order it. And Leanne's the only one on the show I ever let do this. So
Yeah,
tell.
and I appreciate that greatly. It is available on Amazon as well, and it is a rub, an award-winning rub, and you hear award-winning a lot with food and anything, but it did win Best Rub on the Planet, which is a very big award. It's can be used on pork and chicken and French fries and baked beans. It's very versatile. Jeff, you've used it a lot.
Yes.
And then we also have a spicy pig powder coming out, and that will be on the site as soon as I receive it, and some labeling changes too.
I'm even going to use it Friday on a live show.
Oh, good.
Um, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Then we'll get back to Stan here. I'm doing a grilled uh, chicken thigh
Mm.
with basil, and then some mango peach salsa on rice, and some
Ooh, that
couple of
sounds
sides.
good.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Really good.
I went to the fridge and I went. I didn't plan anything for dinner, and so I yelled in the front room. Shell just got home. I said, "Hey, how about some chicken and rice?" And she goes, "Sure." Well, we had, not to belabor this, but we'd gone to Costco and got one of those big peach mango salsa containers. I don't know if they have them
Yeah.
in your area, but they have them up here. So I did that, and I got to thinking about it, and I thought I can do that. And so I used a little pig powder on it, and
Yeah, pig powder would complement peaches, mango, anything like that for
yeah, it's
sure.
perfect. So go to
Oh,
Amazon
good.
or go to pigpowder.com. I'll show you. Send you a picture of the hero shot
Yeah, I
when we're
want to
done.
see it. I want to see it.
Anyway, we're talking with Stan Hayes today from Operation Barbecue Relief. And as we said, going into the break, when Stan first came on the show, they were just really gaining traction. And he's put a lot of years in on this. So, but now they not only have that, they have their retreat farm, if you will, where they can deal with veterans. And as you know, you hear me rail about it a lot that we need to do more for our veterans. And Stan has followed those leads. So bring us up to speed from
Yeah.
where you started, Stan, to where OBR is now.
Yeah. Well, this is our 14th year. Actually, tomorrow, I believe. Um, so we're right on that. You know, already talking about 15 years, what we're going to do for a little celebration. But as you look back at where we've come, from the days of a volunteer group, caravanning around the country to major disasters and feeding communities to last year we did 24 different disaster events across the country, just shy of 1.6 million meals provided to those communities after disaster strikes and first responders and groups that
Sure.
come to help them. But we did 100 non-disaster events last year across the country to support our veterans, our first responders, communities in need outside of disaster in some way, fashion, or form. I mean, one example is and we just finished it, was at the beginning of May is International Firefighters Day. And on that day, 3 years ago, we started um, a small little movement of, hey, let's go out and feed the firemen at firehouses on that day. And we did it in Vancouver 3 years ago, was one of the first areas. I just
Hmm.
happened to be out there around that time and was able to go help feed and, was part of this event. Well, now as you move forward, this year we did over 180 different firehouses in 30 different cities and 21 different states.
Wow.
So in 3 years, that movement is just jumping up. And we've got companies and groups coming on board. Leanne down in your area, Sonny's Barbecue jumped in the
Sure.
southeast and said,
Hmm.
we want to be part of this. We love this idea of celebrating our heroes, on a day like this. And for us, this is how we keep our volunteers that we spend a lot of time, effort. They're the backbone of what we do. This is how we keep them engaged, by getting to do things in their own community that, for their friends, their neighbors, and such. And so it's just been a great thing for growth wise. It's been a great thing for engagement, but more importantly, it gives a lot of ownership to those individuals to help with the brand in their community.
Sure. How you've got a lot of people that are members, if you will, of OBR. How has that grown over the years? I mean, you just gave the example of Sonny's Barbecue helping you with the first responders,
Sure.
but and I was thinking while you were talking, I think it's probably closer to 8 years ago you were on the show first time. The show's been
It might been.
Wow.
we've been
But
on the air. We're going into the 11th year, so it's been a while. Anyway, you've got I know like Meathead is a supporter.
yeah,
We do stuff here, so on and so forth. But how has that grown?
you know, it, by adding that the first responders and veteran component and even active military, it's growing us into new verticals out there, because there's more companies that want to support those than there are just those supporting disaster relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's more foundations. I mean, we've just started working with and been in the works for quite some time. But the Bob Woodruff Foundation is one of the biggest ones out there that focuses on first responders, veteran groups and such like that. For and they've become sort of what a gatekeeper, I guess, might be the best way to put it, for so many foundations, that if you aren't sort of an approved organization with the Woodruff Foundation, you aren't going to be eligible for a foundational grant.
Hmm.
That's like it's like a weed out question. If you're not a part of they call Got Your Six member, then you don't even qualify. It's just like, yep, that's just a weed out. You're done.
Yeah.
And it's taken us a while to get to there and understand it and be able to get through that. But that's just a new thing for us. That's a new avenue. It's a new relationship. But that relationship is, they want to support these groups that make it to that point. And I was with a gentleman yesterday who's a brand new member as well, and he's already seeing benefits from it. He trains uh, therapy dogs for veterans, for PTSD and anxiety and stuff like that. And he has a tremendous facility. They're growing leaps and bounds, and we both, they're a couple months ahead of us in becoming a member. But we just happened to be talking about it yesterday, how it's already, that relationship's paying off. And each one of them is like that, right? I mean, the number of companies, we still, it's amazing, after 14 years, we have some of the same people that we had in that first year, second year, as we started growing,
Yeah.
and still right beside us, still promoting, how we do good in the community, and have deepened their relationship with us.
How do you feel at the end of the day? It's kind of an abstract question, but
Exhausted.
exhausted. Okay.
Exhausted. I'm down here at the camp right now. We did our Monday was our annual golf fundraiser. Huge success until about, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when massive storm came in. So,
Mm,
only about a third of the field actually finished 18 holes. But there wasn't anybody complaining. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
when you have a golf tournament and you have 7 different chefs on holes around the course, putting out fresh, handheld items for the golfers. And if there's not food, there's booze, everybody had a
Yeah.
great time. And then we took and we decided, hey, let's get some of these people that are coming in from out of town, let's get them down to the camp. So we did a VIP 1 day camp experience yesterday. Had a small number of them stayed overnight because of their travel and left this morning. But it gave us a chance to showcase the property. But they all got to, with Johnny I, my chef, get to sit down and they got to break down a whole chicken to do a half chicken. They all got to hear about it, watch him do it, then go do it themselves. And that really, and then get into the fun part of, all right, how am I going to season this? What am I going to use? Right.
Pig powder. Pig
yeah,
powder.
Well, I'm gonna have to,
right.
we're gonna hit up Leanne after this to get some down here because we have a little bit of, we have like a little pantry there of different spices. So, and that's part of the culinary therapy. When you think about it, that's the creative side of the brain that if you are painting and you're trying to decide what color you want to paint something
Right.
or what you want to put in there, or what kind of flour you're going to do or whatever it is, well, it's the same thing. How do I want to season this? Do I want to season? Do I want sweet? Do I want savory? Do I want heat? And those are, it's engaging the same part of the brain that you would if you were doing art therapy or music therapy. It's just food, and the biggest distinction between all of them is everybody has to eat. So at the
Oh
end of the
yeah.
day, it's not just the culinary therapy is not just therapeutic for them, it's life skills, on a grill and smoker for people. And, we had people that were, you know, gung ho, people that were really ginger as they're trying to get through, cutting the backbone out of a chicken for the,
Right.
for the first time ever or something. But everybody had a blast. And then at the end, they're sharing their chicken, say, hey, you should try my chicken here. Let me try some of yours. And it's that, food's the greatest unifier in the world.
Oh yeah.
So if we can use that therapeutic approach, everybody left, and several with organizations that will probably look at renting the camp, and including the culinary therapy along with what they do. So for us, each of these that we do gets more awareness for the organization, gets more awareness for the camp. That's how we grow. That's how we've always grown. It's has always been around, let's just put our head down and do what we do best,
Excellent.
and it will start getting recognized, and it will start growing, and it'll start a movement, or it'll do this, and that's where we're at. We're at a point that, yeah, we need more people. We want to do more camps here because at the end of the day, there are so many more blue sky days than there are gray. So if we can, have programs that are, 24/7, or, 24/7, 365 days a year, most camps run on a seasonality. Our
Mhm.
goal is to be one of the elite camps, which means that you're doing more than 24 camps in a year.
Right. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back with Stan Hayes, Operation Barbecue Relief, and Ms. Whippen, Hall of Famer, and me. I'm just a mic jockey. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Barbecue Nation. I'm JT along with Leanne Whippen and Stan Hayes. Leanne, I flashed on something here. This is what, your third year sitting in
Yeah.
that chair? Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Stan has read the label of pig powder, though. Not to belabor the point, but when he was talking about savory and sweet with little heat, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's right on your label.
I'm gonna send Stan some so he can have it at his camp and put it in his pantry.
I want to
That'd be
come down.
fantastic.
I want to come
Yeah.
down there sometime, Stan, if you're available and we can hook up. And I want to come
Absolutely.
see that camp and because I like to do all those activities, hunting, fishing,
Yep.
golfing. Those That's kind of in my wheelhouse now. What do you have on the agenda going forward? I know we talked about the event coming up at A in June and that, but what other kind of static events do you have on the agenda for, say, the next 4 months?
So we have so many events that, um, one, I start cutting them off about August. They have to be local, standalone, that doesn't take any, is being done by a local person with their own equipment. Because
Hmm.
once we start getting into the height of hurricane season,
Mhm.
I'm not going to tie up equipment for that. But I would bet you we have between now and then, we've got over 20 events already on the calendar. I mean, um, I'm doing in 1 week. I'm doing 3 different events coming up at the beginning of June. I'm doing the National High School Barbecue Championship.
Mhm.
We're going to do a meal for all the kids and their families coming up to Kansas City because it's being hosted up here in Kansas City. So, I offered, since it's our hometown, we might as well show them a little hospitality because there's a lot
Sure.
of kids from Texas, Oklahoma. There's a team from Florida, I believe, coming up this year for it. And as it continues to grow, that's the future of my volunteer base
Yeah.
is those kids. So I want them to know who we are. I want them to, know what we do and be able to talk to them about how it can impact what they're doing today can impact people in the future. And so that's an opportunity, and then that same week, I'm doing a thing with National Beef. We're just getting more and more, involved with events. And in all of those, I think we've got a couple of um, you know, we've done already this year several reserve units where they've been called up and are leaving the country for
Hmm.
deployment. And we're fortunate enough to be able to give them a little celebration with their families before they leave. At the same time, every time we do that, we offer to do the homecoming. And so we have some that are now coming full circle this summer to do some homecoming barbecue for those reserve units that have been called up and been away from home for some of them, man, some of these are long deployments now, 14,
Yeah.
15 months away from home,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know, and
That's
those are the fun things, right? Because disasters aren't fun. Disasters are, that necessary evil out there where,
Mhm.
you need somebody out there providing a good hot meal to people on their worst day.
Where do you keep all your equipment? Is it scattered about?
So we have yes and no. I mean, so we have our warehouse there in Tampa. You've been to before,
Mhm.
and we've got a small amount of equipment down there. Um, we've got equipment in our biggest warehouse space now is no longer Kansas City. It's actually East Tennessee, and that's partially because the people I have there that work on the and on the program side, operational side, but I can get so much more per square foot in Johnson City, Tennessee, than I can anywhere around the Kansas City
Mhm.
metro area, anywhere around. I mean, I don't think in Florida I can touch it, the space,
Yeah, it's out of
that we
sight.
have. And then Dallas, the Dallas area is the fourth location, which we've moved stuff and most recently we've consolidated some of our other locations, freezer storage space and everything. Um, we warehouse around 400,000 servings of protein at any given time
Wow.
to ensure that when a disaster strikes, we have the protein on hand to be able to serve those communities. So uh, and there's no place that we can have that just in one place, so we do have multiple locations. um, they're between Kansas City and Dallas right now, but we're adding our own freezer storage in East Tennessee. That'll be about enough for a tractor trailer load to start out with.
we've got a couple minutes left here, Stan. As you know, hurricane season is coming. Do you ramp up your protein storage in cold storage and that? I mean, it's kind of like projecting the futures market.
Yeah.
It's
Sometimes
like
it's
vending.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like
it is like
vending.
vending, right? So what we do is, we ensure that we're over that, 400,000 mark to
Yeah,
start with in there. Um, but we're in contact with those companies that support us, and they can't give it for free every time,
right, right,
but they give a good portion of it. We try to get the free and get that into storage as, when storage opens up, or when, before this ever happens. But it's easier to buy, even if it's at a highly reduced cost, and get a whole truckload brought in, to backfill,
right.
fairly quickly. And so, when we did, between Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, it was like just under 1.4 million meals.
Mm.
The majority of those in Florida, across the state. You think about that and you try to work the math backwards, and I'm not near, I don't have enough toes and fingers to figure that all out.
Yeah,
But
Mm.
we when you look at that, we're buying a tremendous amount, and we don't keep quite that many, sides. Obviously, we don't have number 10 cans to match 400,000 servings, because we
right,
can get that a little easier. But we have more than a tractor trailer load that's going to be rolling, in of number 10 cans. But we've started adding more to our arsenal so we can do more diversified type meals, when we get in there, things that can be put together so much faster than barbecue, right? We do a lot of
Mhm.
rice dishes with chicken, with pork, and things that are quicker cook stuff using the tilt skillets, and things like that. The combi ovens, we just, purchased, some combi ovens and, cooking holds. Cooking holds are, with our testing, is going to help us out greatly in that area, because we can start that overnight and cook and hold, hot, sides, and be ahead of the
sure,
game before,
yeah,
and it reduces the labor in doing that.
yeah, absolutely. Stan Hayes from OBR, Operation Barbecue Relief. Stan, where can direct people to where they can
Yep.
find you on your websites and social media, etc.
Yeah. So website is obr.org. Just nice, sweet, short. And you can donate, you can volunteer right from the homepage. There's two different buttons there. And then all of our social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, uh, X, Twitter, I mean X, TikTok, is all
Mhm.
OPBBQ Relief. So OPBBQ Relief is our handle on all of our social media.
How often are you on the road?
Oh, this year it's been, a little less than it has in prior years, but it's about
Mhm.
ready to ramp up, where I'm going to be for the next couple of months, where I'll be on the road at least every other week. And then the thing is when I'm in town, then I'm down here at the camp probably one of those weeks, or a few days of the week, just helping out down here. We've got little projects that we've been doing in and out. So, but I'll be in Tampa in August. We're doing a salute to heroes event.
When is that?
I think it's August. I think it's a Sunday, August 17th. You know where the OCC Roadhouse is there in on
Yeah.
19, South Clearwater, Pinellas area.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hosting it there. We're one of, I think, four nonprofits that are benefiting from it.
Good.
Paul Senior will be there. He's doing a motorcycle that'll be unveiled for I think it's a Gold Star family.
Oh, that's
Right.
cool.
Cool.
And there'll be another Gold Star family there that, a singer songwriter, put together a song to commemorate, their loved one lost.
Mhm.
And and it's really to celebrate our heroes. So this will
Oh,
be the second year I think they've done it there.
sorry, I had a little technical issue on my end. I
Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
went away for a while. Anyway, Stan, thank you so much. As always, you're a wealth of information. I
Yes, thank
really
you.
admire what you do out there, bud. It's terrific.
Again, I
Um,
thank you guys for having me on.
Oh,
No
you're
problem.
welcome.
We'll be back next week. Don't know where Leanne's going to be. I don't know where I'm going to be, but we'll be somewhere.
Yep.
And go up to the A in June and see Stan. And if you live in the Portland area or Seattle, come on down
Yeah.
and we'll do then. Until then, I'm JT. Uh, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And go out, have some barbecue, have some fun. And remember our motto, turn it, don't burn it. Take care, everybody.